The world is still turning. Virus rampaging. Contaminating, taking life where it can. We are human, unequipped for isolation. Overpopulation, exploitation, devastation. Murderers rapidly running out of patience. This town's in lockdown. Can't turn the clock back. We can find our way back. Start a different day. This town's in lockdown. Can't turn the clock back. We can change our ways. Start a different day. The streets are naked, but in shops there are queues. The world is devastated with this invisible abuse. The town is in lockdown. We've bolted ourselves in. Maybe we're being punished because of our sins. This town's in lockdown. Can't turn the clock back. We can find our way back. Start a different day. This town's in lockdown. Can't turn the clock back. We must change our ways. Start a different day. Now I'm not religious, but there's something out there. It's a balance of nature that must be repaired. Overpopulation, mass cultivation is destroying our civilization. It seems the spirit of the earth is trying to rebirth. She's righting our wrongs, more attention we must pay. Can't turn the clock back, so start a different day. This town's in lockdown. We can find our way back. Start the day in a different way.
Hey everybody, it's that time again. It is Recovery Week in Leicester, and it's me, your gracious host, being invited once again to host this amazing event. Now, as you can see, it's gone a bit mad with COVID, but we going virtual this Recovery Week. So over the next 5 days, we're going to be taking you through different groups, different acts, different kind of things, the same way we do it as if you were here, but we're going live. So stay tuned, because we're going to be coming at you soon. Recovery Week, yeah!
This week is Leicester's Recovery Week, raising awareness of substance use issues, addictions, doesn't discriminate and can affect anyone at any time. If you're struggling with drugs or alcohol, why not reach out and get in touch with those that can help?
Together we can find the right power to make the right choices, behave the way we know is right, to achieve the goals that will improve our lives. Addiction need not define us. The road to recovery isn't an easy path to follow. Some sections may be best travelled beside those who know the way, but recovery is possible.
Putting the drink and drugs down may well be the single most significant achievement in your life. Go for it. We're with you. You can do it. Persistence with your recovery is more important than pursuing perfection. Keep putting your recovery first. One day at a time, the rest will follow.
Action.
Hello, my name's Andy. I'm one of the new peer mentors for Turning Point in Leicester. I'll give you a bit of an overview of my journey through addiction and into the start of recovery. My journey started, I'd say, probably in my later years of life when, life problems and, a few family problems were starting to materialise. I've always been quite involved with work and being very busy, so I never had an awful lot of time to spend on me. And my parents went through ill health, and my dad died, and I spent a lot of time looking after him with the support from my brother and the rest of my family. But depression and everything started to set in. I was working, but I was drinking a little bit more than I was normally. It wasn't to the point of being dependent or completely out of control, but the levels of alcohol intake started to increase over the years. I went through a relationship breakup. We went our separate ways, and I started to drink a lot more after this. Threw myself into even more work, and it started to really spiral. My health started to suffer, depression really set in, and I really just wasn't even taking care of myself. Just daily routines just went out the window. I was just surviving. I went through this until one morning, I just decided that enough was enough. I didn't want to live anymore. So I disappeared and put my family, through, as I say, 2 days of, hell, which, was a really selfish thing, for me to do. But at the time, you don't, or I didn't think this. All I could focus on was myself, which is part of addiction. You just become really selfish, self-centered, and really just don't care about anything or anybody. So I disappeared and attempted suicide at Beachhead in Eastbourne. I was caught by the chaplains on the cliffs and actually returned back to Leicestershire. My journey then started to get a little bit better. I went through a stage of not drinking alcohol, and things seemed to get a little bit more stable for me. My work, or the people I was working for at the time, were absolutely brilliant. I couldn't say anything bad about that company, but they were brilliant. But things started to take a bit of a turn. I decided to sell my house and move into somewhere smaller, and of course just the moving everything out of the house, and just the stress of moving, and just the daily life took its toll, and I ended up starting to drink quite heavily again and spiraling into a really bad place. The house, everything, just I don't know how I managed to get through it all. But at this point, I was collapsed and I went into a private rehab, which was horrendous. And I came out of there, and again, I was alcohol free for probably 4 or 5 months, and then things took another real bad turn. This time I went missing. just through completely just a blackout. I just lost all consciousness, and I woke up and I was actually in the centre of London. I fell down an escalator. I was covered in blood and just didn't know where I was. So this is the point where, you know, something really bad, you know, could have happened. But I was returned back to, you know, I came back to Leicester, and at this point I engaged with Turning Point and started going through the programme with Turning Point to get me into a better understanding of, you know, the way I was acting, and I engaged with Turning Point, and things were still not brilliant for me. So we decided to, look at the fact of me going into a residential rehab for 6 months. I worked with Turning Point, and things were that bad, and I was that desperate to go to rehab. I live about 6 miles away from Turning Point, and because of the distance, I was actually trying to walk from here to Turning Point and back again once a week, which was a battle in itself. But at this point, I just wanted a way out. The GPs couldn't offer any help. So, with Turning Point, I went into a rehab in Weston-super-Mare, Sefton Park, and it was the best thing that ever happened. It saved my life. The people in there, the staff, the other peers, were just absolutely amazing. It was hard. It wasn't a holiday. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. To sit and look at yourself and see all of the problems that I'd got, the behaviours that I'd got that I can't see, but other people around me could see it. And this is where we worked on these problems. It wasn't just about about the addiction. It was actually working on me to understand myself, to engage in recovery, which I went through the 6 months, and it was hard, and there were times that I did want to leave, and I still read my diary now of when I was in there, so I can look at my diary today of what I was doing this time last year, and you can see the journey. I can see where I was, and it's amazing. I came out of rehab, and I came back to my flat against all the advice of moving away to another area. But I came back because the area I'm in, there's not a lot of bad memories of pubs or going out or people drinking that are associated with. I was more of a lone drinker, where I actually drank just actually in home. I didn't go out and with friends and that. So coming back, there was coming back into the flat, but I settled back in okay. Just took things nice and steady with the support from my family, and 1 or 2 really close friends, my brother David, my sister-in-law Jane, and my niece Becky, and all the family were brilliant. And also one other friend as well, Simon, he lives in Hodden in Essex, and he's rang every single day, even when I was in the the midst of the madness. They would always ring to see how I was, and it's these people that just keep you focused and keep you moving forward. So, but now I'm actually back and taking things nice and steady, working on myself, keeping in a daily routine of life. And then started the peer mentor training with Turning Point, and that has been a real benefit to see what's actually involved with being a peer mentor, and what the peer mentors actually do. When I'm in the madness and you actually sit in a group, and the peer mentors are there, you don't really understand exactly how they're observing you. They understand so much and can read so much about a person, about the body language, exactly how to present it, and it's really good to understand that side of things. Once I started with the the training course for Turning Point, I just couldn't begin to understand how in depth it was. But I've been going through it, and with a group of people in the training group, a really good bunch of people in there, and that's made the group really good. You've got a good mix of people in there, and a good camaraderie of people together, and the journey's been really good. But of course, then we've had the onset of the coronavirus, which upset the balance of everything. But I've not let it phase me or put me back. I've tried to remain focused, keep looking forward, and I've started to study counselling, which I'm actually an engineer by trade, but now I want to venture into or explore the world of counselling and psychology. So this is where I want to go now. But it's been a tough journey, but if you want it bad enough, then you can do it. You just have to put your mind to it and say, I can do this. And believe me, if I can do it, anybody can.
All right then, Kerry, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kerry. I came to Turning Point as a referral in October of last year after being arrested on the 6th of September, waking up in a cell and finally realising I actually needed help with alcohol. Social services got involved and it was basically give up the alcohol or lose my children, and I decided there and then that was not an option for me. I went to see my GP. He also helped with the referral, got an appointment within a week or so to see Richard at Turning Point. He was my first recovery worker. Had assessments, follow-up phone calls. I was enrolled on groups that could help with mindfulness, thinking about how I did, I've had cravings. Started meditation as well, which has really helped when I get cravings or anything. It makes me stop and think about surroundings, makes me breathe, makes me think clearer, and it's stopped me from picking up alcohol. Once I'd finished my work with Richard, he then asked me about becoming a peer mentor, which I didn't think I would be able to do, but it gave me the confidence to do it. So I've done all my training as a peer mentor. I'm now a new peer mentor, and I'm really happy to be given this opportunity. I'm so thankful for Turning Point, because without them I don't know where I would be today, and I'm happy to start a new role and hopefully be able to help somebody else.
That's really good. You deserve everything you've got.
Thank you.
Welcome to our humble pop-up recording studio, and today I'd like to introduce someone who's been very influential really in helping establish peer mentoring in the region, and someone who's been at the forefront of developing sort of lived experience. Amongst may I add a whole bunch of other work, but without further ado, could I please welcome to the couch Sarah Hancock-Smith. Good afternoon, Sarah.
Good afternoon, John. Nice to be here.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad in these strange times. Yeah, not too bad.
I understand, with Turning Point, you've been able to sort of, a lot of the services you've able to keep going. And you're still seeing people face to face if they need a medical assessment, sort of more high level interventions you can't do over the phone.
Yeah, that's right, John. I mean, we've had to radically change everything that we're doing over the last kind of 5 months, and to make sure that we're keeping our service users and staff safe. And wherever possible, we're doing things over the telephone and now video as well. But we have got face-to-face interventions for those who need it, for things like medical reviews, wellbeing nurse interventions and needle exchange. But the most important thing is to try to be there for people who need support. So yeah.
And I know something close to your heart has been peer mentoring. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us how you're working with peer mentors at the moment to sort of cope with lockdown and COVID?
Yeah, I think that the peer mentors have been fantastic. During this period, many of them have underlying health conditions themselves, their own worries around COVID. But the dedication of the peer mentors to wanting to support their fellow service users is incredible. And the peer mentors are helping in lots of different ways. They're doing welfare calls. They're helping us to put some inspirational things on our walls at Eldon Street for when we welcome people back. They are going to be co-facilitating our online groups that have started. Peer mentors are just such a fundamental part of what we deliver that I couldn't imagine our service without them. And so our service during lockdown includes peer mentors and always had to, so yeah.
Would you be able just to tell us a little bit how you went about establishing initially how the peer mentoring in Leicester was set up, because I believe you're influential in getting this whole lived experience component off the ground in the area?
Yeah, so it was going back about 10 years now, which is quite scary. So prior to working for Turning Point, so I was the manager of the criminal justice drugs team for probation, and one of our staff members actually kind of said to me, look, we need to be utilising the skills and expertise of people who have been through treatment to deliver our services. And she suggested to me that we started a peer mentor scheme, and I think that was in 2010, and we started the very first cohort of peer mentor training. And the concept really was about offering support to service users to give them some training to help others. I don't think that we really knew exactly what we were doing at that point. We've learned as we've gone along, but it was very obvious from the very first day, and I can still remember that very first day when I kind of met all those first trainee peer mentors. It was really obvious that this was going to make a difference to the way that we delivered our services. And since then, peer mentoring's gone from strength to strength and has grown into peer mentors being a fundamental part of what we deliver, but also, obviously things like the growth of Dear Albert, the growth of interventions being led by people in the recovery community, has really grown over the last 10 years, hasn't it? And you can't even imagine what treatment services were like before then.
It's certainly changed a lot, hasn't it, Sarah?
Yeah.
It's changed the landscape.
Yeah.
And it's great to sort of be part of that. And I think, really, before we move on, I was just going to perhaps suggest, could you give our viewers this afternoon just a sort of a synopsis, like a summary of what Turning Point does in the area and the services you offer?
Yeah, so Turning Point's the drug and alcohol treatment provider in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, and we support people who have either a drug or alcohol issue. So we work with around about 2,500 people at any one time. So we take referrals for anyone who considers themselves to have an issue with either alcohol or drugs, and the range of things that we deliver varies from kind of talking therapies, groups for people who want to receive that intervention, through to medical treatment for those who need that to help them to overcome their substance use, and whether that's prescribing of opiate substitute medication like methadone, or helping people to detox from alcohol, either as an inpatient or in the community. We have a whole range of things, so it's really tailored to the individual's treatment needs. We also support the family and friends of our service users, because often they're impacted greatly by someone's substance use. And we also work with young people, so anyone, I think the youngest people that we've worked with is about 11, but anyone under the age of 18 as well. So it's the whole range of treatment services in the local area.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty comprehensive service. And you've said quite a lot there, but if you just sort of pick up on one of the points around prescribing, how big a part of what you do is prescribing? How many people does that help sort of?
So we have around about 1,500 people who will be prescribed by our services across the city and the county, and that is an important part of some people's treatment, but for me that is about providing people with some stability so that they can then address what the underlying reasons are that's led them to be using the substances that they're using. So I think sometimes people think just get on a script and you're sorted, but for me that's an enabler. It helps people to then address the things that are going to help them to achieve and sustain recovery longer term. So we always try and encourage people to access kind of what we call psychosocial interventions, like talking therapy, so discussions with their recovery worker, whether that's on an individual basis or a group basis, alongside their prescription, so that actually they can make lasting changes to their substance use and actually be able to live a life, without substances in the future if that's what they want.
So there's an emphasis there, I think, what I'm hearing, Sarah, is providing some stability, and then alongside that working on these, perhaps some of the underlying issues that have been played a part in people getting kind of hooked onto substances. Quite a few people say to me, John, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, I've had no issues, I just like the euphoria that certain substances give me. I kind of chase the high. I'm sort of pursuing hedonism. I just want to get that feeling that drugs or alcohol give me, even though I know it might only be temporary. But is there always something sort of gone a bit wrong underneath, or do some people just like drugs and that's it?
I guess that different people have got different views on that. I think that it's very unusual for things to end there. That might be where things start for people, that actually that's how they feel, that actually there's not really a problem, they're just getting the positive side of it, but it's very unusual for drugs or alcohol to not eventually impact upon people's lives in other ways, whether that's their health, their relationships, their finances, their job, whatever that is. And I would kind of also say that them looking for that elsewhere, that kind of positive feeling, must mean that there's something that they're chasing from external, that perhaps they need to have a look at where else they could be getting that feeling from. So it's not that everyone who uses drugs at every single moment in time has got a huge problem with it, but it's very unusual that doesn't lead to people having further problems in the future.
Right. So I think I follow that. So I think what you're saying there is it might be a case that pre-existing underlying issues might not exist, but if you take drugs and alcohol for long enough, you're going to come across bigger problems.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of theories, isn't there? It's like, does the underlying issues cause people to use drugs? Does the drugs cause the issues, or are those two things both existing together? And I think it's different for different people, and I think that there's different things for different individuals at different times as well.
Yeah, I think often there can there's these two P's. There's often a push to use substances and the pull as well. So, but yeah, it's a sort of an element of chicken and egg situation. Yeah, and perhaps some of these issues, they can be very subtle. Yeah, and I guess some of the talking therapies you talk about are helping people make these sort of connections that might not be obvious to them initially.
And I think that the key for me as well is that people don't need to get to the point where everything's gone wrong for them to address that their use of drugs or alcohol is becoming a problem in their life. And actually the earlier we can intervene and work with people, the better. So actually, if people start to recognise that actually I think that I've been drinking a bit too much, and I've been drinking a bit more during lockdown, you know, which we're seeing a lot actually. Actually, if people can start to think about, okay, well, that's starting to impact upon my health. I'm putting on a bit of weight. I'm arguing more with my partner. I was late for work the other day. You know, if they can start to address it at that point, perhaps it can avoid the escalation to, you know, what sadly we see from many of our service users, that they've hit rock bottom, you know, and that's the point which is the catalyst for change, which for many people they need to reach that point. But if we can get there earlier with people and we can support them to make smaller changes when things are just starting to be a problem, then I think that's where we can be really effective.
So yeah, perhaps more sort of earlier interventions, and I know here we talk quite a lot about, and it's come up with other guests on the couch really, about identifying a rock bottom, and it's sort of the gift of desperation really, and yeah, it does seem you know, if you can sort of start working on some of these issues before they get to that. But then sometimes it's harder to see where it's leading until you've
definitely. Many people find it difficult to identify the problems that drugs or alcohol are perhaps leading them towards, because actually it's not impacting badly upon their lives and they're having a good time, and you know, that's how they might be feeling at that point, and so they find it more difficult to ask for help at that earlier point. But you know, and that, I think that's where our services kind of come in, is that actually we can work with people at that early stage, but we can also work with people when they've, you know, have reached that point of actually, you know, real rock bottom. You know, we work with people in the prison, we work with people coming out of prison, we work with people who are living on the streets, but we also work with people who are holding down a really successful job, and you know, they want to try and keep that. So yeah, it takes a whole range of different people in different circumstances who may end up with experiencing a problem with drugs or alcohol. It's not any one particular type of person.
Yeah, you don't feel there's like a particular demographic or population. I think, you know, addiction, problematic drinking, it can literally affect anyone at any time.
Yeah, and that's what we see in our services. You know, I used to manage the criminal justice service, and now I manage all of the services that Turning Point offers, and I see a whole range of different people coming into our services, and it doesn't affect just one part of society. It crosses any ethnicities, genders, sexual orientations, people with disabilities. All kinds of people can be affected by drug and alcohol use, and I think, you know, particularly with alcohol, you know, it's seen as a socially acceptable thing to drink. It's almost seen as unacceptable not to drink, and so you see all kinds of different people who will end up starting with a relatively okay relationship with alcohol, but then it becomes incredibly difficult and problematic for them, and you know, we're there to try and help people to address those things, and to lead them to places like here as well, to yourselves, where they can, you know, get support from people who have been there and done that. Yeah.
And that's how you see it, is it so then? Is people have a relationship with their drug of choice?
Well, I think that everyone's reasons for using drugs or alcohol is different, you know, and for many people, I can imagine that letting go of that thing that has helped them when they're feeling sad, and has been there when they felt happy, and has celebrated with them, and has been the thing that's always there, must be incredibly difficult. So yeah, I guess that that many people must see that as a relationship, and I think that for me the key to addressing these things is to look at, okay, well, what can replace that? What relationships and what can take the place of that drugs or alcohol were taking? You know, whether that's to do with social networks, whether that's to do with hobbies, work. I think that's a really important thing.
So you've mentioned quite a lot there. You sort of come across this whole concept of rock bottom. You just talked there about perhaps the challenge of sort of letting go of something. You've mentioned the importance of lived experience, peer mentoring, some of the other sort of professional interventions you offer. But from your experience, and you've been in the field a long time now, what do, if I could ask you now, Sarah, what do you think is one of the most important things that helps someone find recovery? What would that be? What do you feel is one of the most important aspects of helping somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tricky question because there's so many different things that play a part. I think that for me, the thing that I think is kind of common for everyone is finding, as I was just saying a moment ago, finding whatever it is that's going to replace what drugs or alcohol was giving. And for some people, that means that they have to give up some other aspects of their life. It's not just a case of, stopping drinking or putting down drugs. It's actually changing your friendships or changing the places that you socialise. Maybe some relationships are not healthy and need to be ended. And so for me, it's finding that thing that's going to help recovery be sustained. So from what I kind of see from our service users and from kind of talking to you and other people who are in recovery, you can't just stop using the substance and then expect to be able to continue with the life that you were living exactly as it was, because that life involved drink and drugs. It might be that you need to that people need to be thinking about, well, actually, who's my social network? Who have I got connections to? Who's going to help me to sustain this recovery? Is it about employment? Is it about volunteering? Is it about mutual aid? And I think that for me, that is a really important aspect of people sustaining recovery. I think people, they might be able to stop drinking for one day, but what's going to happen in 6 months when, you come across a problem in your life that you would have turned to drink for? Actually, what are the alternative coping strategies or, alternative support networks that are in place? So it's not a single word, it's not a single thing, but it's that kind of concept of, what is replacing the part that drugs and alcohol was playing in somebody's life to make it sustainable.
Yes, so you would emphasise this aspect of replacement and finding something else. If we take away, to some extent, the medicine, or people talk about self-medicating, or this relationship with a substance which is perhaps soothing, comforting, we get to rely on it. It's perhaps replicating an ideal relationship that hasn't existed. So it's about finding new interests and new ways of doing things and engaging with new challenges.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's coming back to your question earlier about prescribing. That's why prescribing alone isn't going to work just on its own, because actually all it's doing is putting something else in the place of the drugs, or and actually working on the underlying issues and the things that are going to mean that somebody doesn't go back to using drugs or alcohol. That's the important side of it. The script just enables the physical, withdrawal to go away and mean that people can be in a better, more stable place to be able to address those other things.
So I think it addresses that, vicious circle people talk about, or that sort of negative loop of, because you've got dependency, you're in withdrawal. Because you're in withdrawal, you're having to score.
Yeah.
And you know, if you can remove that withdrawal component and offer some stability, then that's a chance to look at some of this.
It enables people to then address the other things that are going to help them sustain that change. You know, it might help people to make that initial change, you know, to say, actually, I can stop using heroin because, you know, I've got a methadone prescription. But actually, the things that are going to prevent somebody from starting to use heroin again they're the things that need to be changed. You know, whether that's about who your connections are, how you feel about yourself, you know, mental health issues.
And that's where the challenge really is then, do you think?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think that, you know, it's probably, and I'm sure that, you know, the medical staff in our service would agree that actually the prescription side of it is just the starting point, and actually the addressing of those underlying issues and helping people to develop and have a life that is without drink and drugs. That's the harder bit.
It's been fascinating and always a pleasure to spend a bit of time with you, Sarah. Thanks so much for coming along and being willing to you know, share your experiences and observations. If you'd like to give perhaps 2 final shout outs, perhaps if anyone is, you know, watching this afternoon and they're struggling, what can they do? And also, I'm not sure where you are with the next sort of program of peer mentoring, but if anyone's out there and would like to give peer mentoring a go, how do they go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say to anybody who is sort of looking or thinking to themselves that actually they feel that they would need some help and support, to either give us a ring or go on to our website. If you just Google Turning Point Leicestershire, that will lead you to our website where you can make a direct referral. It's also got our telephone number, and it's a really simple process. It's really, you know, you'll get a telephone call from one of our members of staff who are, you know, really friendly, non-judgmental, and they will talk to you about what support you are looking for and what your needs are. So yeah, I would really encourage anyone who's even just thinking, you know, I'm a little bit worried about my drinking or you know, I've started to get into a bit of problems with my drug use, to take that step. A really difficult step, but you know, take that step. And peer mentors, you know, we're constantly wanting to hear from people who want to help and support others in their recovery. We don't have a date at the moment for when we're next recruiting peer mentors, but we always are keen to hear from people. So, you know, people can get in touch with Turning Point in the way I've said previously, or, you know, I'm sure that you at Dear Albert would be happy to pass people's details on to us as well. So,
absolutely, and yeah, thanks once again for joining us, and thanks for everything you do and, you know, your support for recovery in the area, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. It's been great to be here.
Hello, I'm Paul from sunny Stafford. This week is Leicester Recovery Week, raising awareness of substance use issues. Addiction doesn't discriminate and can affect anyone at any time. If you're struggling with drugs, alcohol, why not reach out and get in touch with those that can help? Dear Albert, Turning Point, all the fellowships. There's never been more help out there. Cheers.
Hi, it's Sherry here from number 5. Just want to say thank you for those who are watching for supporting Recovery Week for 2020.
Hello, I'm Dave, service user. By supporting our local drugs and alcohol treatment service and the recovery community, we can make recovery from substance use a reality for more people.
Hi, I'm Naomi. I'm a service user for the Stairway Project. I'm very grateful to be part of Recovery Week, and thank you to everyone else there to be a part of it.
Hi, I'm Jo. I'm 2.5 years clean. Commitment. My commitment to me is to get well, do whatever I need to stay out of hell. The hell of addiction and bad mental health, homeless and starving, no spiritual wealth. Ducking and diving, forever declining, going downhill further until I ended up broke, I ended up sad, I lost everything that I ever had. I lost my self-worth, a reason to live. I ended up broke with nothing to give. Nothing for no one, nothing for me, nothing was left, right up until I made that decision to commit to get well, go on that journey, the one out of hell. The journey's been heavy, my baggage was lots, but as I plod on, I'm dropping it off. Little by little, I'm finding me, I'm losing the baggage, I'm learning to be. My self-worth has come as I trudged along, I realise now that I had none. Now I have structure, now I have friends, now I have a reason and money to spend. Commitment ain't easy, commitment ain't fun, but with that commitment, I'm now in the sun. My life isn't perfect, I have my fair share, but with my commitment, I'm no longer where. It was all pain and anger, drugs, drink and crime. With my commitment, I've left that behind. So commitment for me will lead me to wealth, lead me to gain well mental health. Stable and clean, less worry and stress, live my life peaceful and not in that mess. That mess of addiction and all of its pain, I'm no longer in that dark sewer drain. So I make the commitment each day as I wake to stay in recovery, a difference to make.
The trees are the waves breaking on the deserted beach of my mind. I'm lying on nature's carpet, tuning into the world I find. Living the now, it's a gift we have, accepted as a present. Look what's inside. Forget the past and the future, it will be stored on your computer. You must seize the day, not worry it away. Let the aroma of life strike. The birds are tweeting, there will be no tweet about me. Don't understand technology. I'm all alone, but that's okay. People annoy me anyway. Living the now, it's a gift we have, accepted as a present. Look what's inside. Forget the past and the future, it will be stored on your computer. You must seize the day, not worry it away. Let the aroma of life strike. We all seek to find peace of mind and meaning. Stop searching, listen. It's in the calmness of your being. Practice mind control. Don't let them in. They will cause mass destruction and calmness